Welcome back to Autism Elements. Today we have episode number 3, which is familiarize yourself with the e-learning platforms or websites that your child and teacher may be using.
As we embark in this journey of distance learning, I know there's a lot of uncertainties happening, and there's a lot of things that are completely unplanned for and unknown. Before we get started with today's tips of the day, I did want to bring some things up for you to just think about. I know that when you started this school year, maybe your teacher provided some supply lists for you to just go ahead and buy some items that your child may need. But I think they forgot to give you the supply list that you as a parent were probably going to be needing this whole entire school year as we navigate through a pandemic, right? The first thing is patience, okay? Then we have flexibility needed. How about some deep breaths? I don't know about you guys, but I definitely need some deep breaths sometimes. Calmness, humor, cooperation, encouragement, positivity, understanding, compassion, respect, and most of all, kindness with each other. And I know that things are going to get really hard at times and very frustrating and overwhelming. Just wanted to give you some growth mindset mantras for parents as we start the new school year. First one is, we don't need all the answers to get started. And everything might be figure outable. Between your child, the teacher, and yourself, you are going to be in the same team. And we don't know what the full plan is yet, but we are going to figure it out together. And together we can do hard things. And I know this is hard, but we can work out together for solutions. So hopefully today, that's what Autism Elements is going to do for you. We are hoping to give you some tips to make e-learning successful at home. So let's go ahead and get started. Tip number 1, familiarize yourself with the learning platforms your child is going to use. Most places, whether it's a school, a district, a city, however they're doing their e-learning, they are going to have a login place where it kind of redirects you to all the different platforms they'll be using. So make sure you familiarize yourself with your student's ID and password to log in and be able to authenticate. I want to just remind you that it is extremely important you always start with this signing process to whatever avenue they may be using, because it is normally the biggest troubleshoot that most parents are having and students is they didn't start with the main login process or main login portal, and it starts creating a lot of troubles with every other tool you use. Then you're going to be redirected probably to a page where you're going to be able to find all the different resources your child will be using through the online after you signed in through that authenticating sign-in. Once you're in there, you may find applications such as the online classroom your teacher will use, any textbooks, any online tools, whether it's a learning academic application, academic websites that may be related or linked with your school, and of course, any communicating tools or anything like that that may be connected to your school as well. Next, you're probably going to have your online classroom. So the next tip that I do recommend you guys to do is to go ahead and explore. Navigate before your child starts using it. Go ahead and kind of have some questions down, make sure that you are able to find your meeting links. You can identify where the schedule is. You can practice looking at assignments and how you're going to do the assignments, and take a look at how you're going to upload assignments once your child has completed it. So again, you want to go ahead and keep navigating and exploring to make sure if you have any questions, you can definitely talk with your teacher about any questions you may have of this online classroom platform. Okay, so again, you want to make sure that you're able to troubleshoot with your child, or so you can help your child or even help yourself as you're navigating this tool. Next thing is I want to remind you to make sure your child logs in every day. Take a look at the assignments they may be submitting, and even if they can't stay on for a long time in their video conference meeting, just make sure they sign in, say hello, and then log off if they can't handle it. And I will give you further tips in a little while about how to build endurance. Lastly is you need to explore the video conferencing application or tool your teacher will be using. This is extremely important because every school is using different things. Some schools are using Google Meet, others are using K-12, others are using Zoom, and some of them are using Microsoft Office. Although they have similar components and similar icons, they still vary. So you want to make sure that you're able to practice and explore with your child, because the first most important tools you want to learn is how to turn on your camera and how to turn off your camera. And this is really important. One of the things that I remind all my parents and teachers is that you want to make sure you shut down your camera, or you want to make sure that your background environment is appropriate, because remember, it's kind of like the eye inside your home. You're going to be able to show everything that's happening in your house, and everybody participating is going to be able to see it if your camera is on. Number two is remembering that when it is not your turn, it is recommended that your child turns off the camera to minimize distraction of anything happening in the house. Okay, and the same will be repeated to the other participants, so that way the sole attention can be given to the teacher giving the instruction. So again, make sure you familiarize yourself with both the microphone and the camera button and what it means when they're on and how it looks when they're off as well. Furthermore, again, once you log into these video conferencing meetings, your toolbars may change. So you do want to explore what every icon might mean. And if you're having trouble, again, reach out to your district, reach out to your teacher. But if you need a little bit of reference, just remember, try to learn what the participants' icons look like, what the chat box looks like, raising the hand if that's an option, the menu option that your tool might provide you, and again, the camera, the microphone, and the leave button. Now, I want to give you some tips that might be beneficial as you're diving into video conferencing. The first one is some of the platforms do offer captions. And what that means is as the presenter is having a conversation or presenting for you guys, it may actually transcribe every word they're saying. Now, I'm going to warn you, it's not always extremely accurate, and depending on the pronunciation of the teacher or presenter, or how fast they talk or how slow they talk, it may be either more accurate or not. But for the most part, they're pretty good icons to use. Some of the times that you might want to use this is if you're having trouble with your child kind of understanding what your teacher is saying or the presenter, you might want to turn on the captions so they can read along. Sometimes, again, it is extremely overwhelming, so there are options to turn off all the incoming cameras, which only affects you as the participant. And what that means is it will shut down all the cameras for everyone so you don't see it. And you can turn on the captions so they could at least hear only and read. If that helps your child, then I hope you can use that feature. Another tool that has been seen throughout video conferencing is pinning. What does pinning mean? And what it means is basically you're going to select a participant, whether it's your teacher or the assistant, if you want the focus to just be on them. Normally, how you do that is you find their name and it has a menu option by their name, and it's going to tell you pin this participant. If you do that, it's going to maximize that participant. So the main camera or the main focus video incoming is going to be that teacher or the para. You can normally do more than one person. So again, I did recommend if you have a teacher and an assistant, maybe you want to pin them both, in case that assistant is using visuals to redirect your child. And lastly, but not least, I just want to remind you guys to always keep in mind, you don't always have to leave the meeting if your child just needs a moment, or if you need to help your child and you don't want to be a distraction to every participant. All you need to do is turn off your camera and your microphone, and that will be sufficient. Just make sure you let the teacher know ahead of time that you might be doing some of these things to help your child regroup, whether it's to get a sensory need or whether it's just to get a moment and help them get themselves organized. I hope these tips have been useful, but again, remember, you have your resources. So if you're still struggling with some of these resources and these platforms, use your district and teacher resources. Number one is most districts have different, whether it's websites or courses where they actually give more information on the different platforms they're using throughout the county. So make sure you have those available or know about them so you can reference them. Many districts, due to all this e-learning, have created a tech support line that you can reach out. So go ahead and make sure that you have that number handy at all times posted up in a wall. So you can, again, just like I mentioned, make sure you put it all together in case you need it at any time. As a reminder, always use your resources. It does take three in this world of education. It takes the student, the teacher, and definitely the parents or the caregivers. So I want you to keep in mind, okay, always contact your teacher first. Try to communicate with them. Okay, try to go ahead and let them know you're having trouble and what are your questions or troubleshoots that you're having. Then if you're still struggling with whatever concept that may be, go ahead and reach out to the next person in line, which could be either the ESE specialist or the person that directs the IEP meetings maybe, or even an autism specialist or an autism coach that is the support within the school, okay? And then if that is still not enough, if your concerns are still not being addressed, then I would definitely recommend you go to the administration of the school, which would be your assistant principal and your principal. And sometimes, depending on the situation, it could be the counselor of the school as well.
Thank you for joining us today in this episode number 3 about familiarizing yourself with the learning platforms or websites that your school district, teacher, and child may be using. We hope that some of these tips are going to be applicable so you can make this e-learning at home more successful. And I wanted to remind you guys to not forget to follow us through Facebook, Instagram, YouTube channel, our blog, and we also have a Teachers Pay Teachers store that may be useful with different things that you can apply at home as well. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.